You can't have it both ways, ladies and gentlemen. You just can't have it both ways. Can't be hypocrites. You either have to legitimize the power era, the steroid era, the home run era, or if you're not going to do that, then you have to let Fred McGriff in. All right. I think that Fred McGriff needs to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And I think it's quite unfair that he has not been inducted into the Hall of Fame. I'm going to make a comparison between Fred McGriff and a guy who is in the Hall of Fame already, Reggie Jackson. And I'm not saying that Reggie Jackson should be in the Hall of Fame. He should be. But Reggie Jackson, for his career, posted, he played 21 years. He posted a 262 career batting average. Fred McGriff, who played 19 seasons, posted a 284 batting average, 22 points higher than Reggie Jackson. For his career, Reggie Jackson had an on-base percentage of 356, which is very good. Fred McGriff, 377 on-base percentage, 21 points higher than Reggie Jackson. For his career, Reggie Jackson posted a 490 slugging percentage, which is respectable, but not all that high. Fred McGriff posted a 509 slugging percentage. So, just on the surface, at least, you could say that McGriff was a better hitter overall. He wasn't a better power hitter than Reggie, but you could say he was a better hitter. Um, and, of course, with Reggie Jackson, his postseason performances are legendary. And while I can't say that McGriff's compares as far as memorable moments or championship caliber teams that he's played on, or as far as sheer numbers of playoff games is concerned. But McGriff did play in 50 postseason games, and many of those with those Atlanta Braves teams in the 90s. And he posted outstanding numbers. He had a 303 batting average for his career in the postseason. One of the things that I was looking for players in the postseason, he played better than he did in the regular season. He had a 385 batting on base percentage and a 532 slugging percentage with 10 homers, 11 doubles, 37 RBI. And, baseball is one of those games where certain players actually slumped in the postseason compared to their regular season numbers. Barry Bonds, for the most part of his career until the latter years, struggled in the postseason, as did Ted Williams, the immortal Ted Williams. He struggled in the postseason. So I wanted to make that comparison. Then there's always the argument about Jim Rice. All right, there's a Jim Rice argument. Jim Rice, for his career, his overall numbers were great, well, good, I would say, but pale in comparison to other persons in the Hall of Fame with power hitters. I think, off the top of my head, Jim Rice had 382 home runs, all right, which is comparable to a guy like Albert Bell in the home run era. But Jim Rice finally got in on his 15th and last year eligibility, primarily because of the fact that for 10 years he was one of the American League's most feared hitters with the Boston Red Sox. Now, Fred McGriff, for at least that period of time, was one of the most feared hitters in both the American League and National League. And he hit over 100 more home runs than Jim Rice. Now, this is why I said what I said at the beginning of this video about you can't have it both ways. Now, until about, I say about 1993, 1994, Fred McGriff was considered one of the elite power hitters in baseball. Now, what happened after that, as we all know, is there was a grand proliferation of steroid usage in baseball. And we started seeing power numbers like we've never seen before. All right, we seen King Caminiti win, I think it was the NL MVP with 40 home runs. A guy who never really put up numbers like that again in his career, and unfortunately passed away due to the excessive usage of steroids a few years ago. We saw just phenomenal numbers. Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds. I remember the 1998 season. You had McGwire hit 70, Sosa hit 66. People forgot that for a while it was a three-man race with the home run race. King Jr. finished with 56 home runs, but he faltered in August and September. For a while it was three men in that home run race. Then after that, you had Greg Vaughn hit 50. All right, so there were four guys who hit 50 home runs that year. And then after that, I think if I remember correctly, Albert Bell had 49. So, and I think Manny Ramirez hit something like 45 that year. So it was a lot of people that was just a typical year in the steroid era. So we have all these guys posting these numbers. Fred McGriff's numbers got lost in the shuffle. You know what I'm saying? He was still posting respectable numbers, hitting like 305, 36 home runs, 108 RBI, but they ain't rather pedestrian. Whereas 6 years earlier, he was winning home run titles with numbers like that. Now, this is where the hypocrisy comes in. Now, you can't say, well, his numbers paled in comparison to these other players. They were average. But yet, the argument that the other side tends to be people who don't like home run, people who penalize those who use steroids. And I said, at the time they weren't illegal. Now you could say it was unethical to use them, but it wasn't illegal. You can't say, well, these guys were cheating. But then on the other side say, well, the reason why we're not going to put McGriff in is because his numbers pale in comparison to these guys. So you're penalizing him for not cheating. McGriff could have cheated in your eyes of what you're saying. McGriff chose not to do that. He chose to use his God-given talents. That's the argument that, you would use. Sacrificed his dominance, or his artificial, what could have been his artificial dominance, for his natural ability. If you take away the people who are suspected of steroid usage and those who admitted to steroid usage, McGriff would be still a top guy. Now, there's an argument saying, well, McGriff never hit 50 home runs. He never even hit 40 home runs. That's true. He never did. But I always saw McGriff as an overall hitter. And he was a guy who had a lot of pop in his bat, but I also never got the impression he was a guy who was only out there to hit home runs. I never got that impression. And I also believe that the 1994 World Series strike hurt McGriff. All right. Now, we all remember until recently all of us were old enough to remember that 500 home runs used to be the barrier, where if you hit 500 home runs, it was pretty much a lock for you being inducted into the Hall of Fame. You know, they got guys like Eddie Murray, helped to get guys like Eddie Murray in. And had it not been for the home run strike, excuse me, not home run strike, had it not been for the baseball strike that commenced on August 12th, 1994, which saw baseball not see a World Series that year, and it cut many players short about 50 games that season. McGriff probably would have surpassed 500 home runs. He was having a phenomenal season, if I remember correctly, in '94. Um, you know, as a matter of fact, just to not to go away from the subject of this video too long, but I'm reflecting back on the '94 season, and that was an incredible season. You know, at the time of the strike on August 12th, you had King Griffey Jr. with 40 home runs. You had Matt Williams, who would never have a season like that again, with 43 home runs on August 12th. Barring injury, I don't know whether or not Matt Williams would have hit 62 home runs. It would have caused him he would have had to hit another another 19 home runs. But it would have been amazing to see some of the final numbers for certain players that year, and whether that season would have changed some of these other guys' perceptions. But anyway, McGriff most likely would have hit 500 home runs had it not been for the strike. I think that would have changed the perception of McGriff a little bit. If I didn't mention this before, McGriff did win a World Series ring with the Atlanta Braves in 1995. He was their feared slugger in the bat during those years, along with a guy like Andres Galarraga. I just believe that McGriff should be a Hall of Famer. Now, is he a top-tier Hall of Famer? No, he's not. But as we've seen the last few years, the Baseball Hall of Fame has become more or less the Baseball Hall of Very Good and very popular. And I think, I look at his numbers, the percentage of persons who have voted for him on the ballot, and it's becoming kind of pathetically low. And if this guy doesn't get into the Hall of Fame, I think it's quite a disservice to Fred McGriff's career. He could have been he could have been a hanger-on. He just never came up to me as a guy who cared excessively about his numbers. He could have played a couple of more years just to get 500 home runs, but he didn't do that. And I also recall toward the end of his career, and it kind of pissed me off a little bit because I wanted to see him get to 500 home runs. I think he lost some playing time as he got older to younger players. I don't think he liked it, but he did it, and it hurt him in his quest for 500 career home runs. I almost kind of wish, man, that someone would just sign this guy, man, even though he's well over 50 years old by now. I wish somebody would just sign this guy just so he can hit 7 fucking home runs. You know what I'm saying? But I think that, in conclusion, Fred McGriff is a Hall of Famer. Not a top-tier Hall of Famer, but he's a Hall of Famer. And I think he should get in. And hopefully, before time runs out for Fred McGriff, the crime dog will get in to the Hall of Fame, and his career can come full circle. Because during the late 80s, early 90s, I I remember how dominant a hitter he was. During a 7-year stretch, the Crime Dog hit 242 home runs, and no one, not even Barry Bonds during that stretch, came close to that total.